Hello, everyone who's joining today. My name is Monica Rutherford, and I'm a state park interpreter with California State Parks, and welcome to our virtual Mind Walk series. This is a monthly educational opportunity to hear about the awesome natural, cultural, and recreational resources and history of our local state parks. And this is an opportunity that we are thankful that the Central Coast State Parks Association supports, our nonprofit partner. So you can check them out at this website here if you want to learn more about how they support educational opportunities in our local state parks. And you can also view a list of upcoming Mind Walks we have there on the website on the screen. Today's Mind Walk is going to last about 45 minutes to an hour, and we're going to be doing a dive into the state parks in SLO County. If you have questions throughout the presentation today, just feel free to type them into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to get to them at the end of the presentation. So just a quick introduction again. We have three presenters today. My name is Monica Rutherford. I'm a state park interpreter too with the San Luis Obispo Coast District of California State Parks. And I've been in the parks world for about 5 years now, but new to this role specifically just in the past few months. And we have Francesca.
Hello, my name is Francesca Mannheim. I'm a California State Park Interpreter 1. I've been with California State Parks for just about 8 years now. I've worked in 3 different state park districts, starting my career down in the Orange Coast District at Crystal Cove State Park, doing tidal ecology and habitat restoration. And then I had 3 years at the Oceano Dunes District, which we'll learn more about today. So familiar with the parks in our south, San Luis Obispo County. And then most recently, I've been working up here in the San Luis Obispo Coast District as an Interpreter 1, doing our education programs. Happy to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mallory Claassen, and I work in the Oceano Dunes District. I've been here for, I guess about 12 years now, and really honored to be able to collaborate with these ladies today on this project and to share more about our parks with you.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, we're super excited to be able to share this presentation. So today's virtual Mind Walk is called Explore the State Parks of San Luis Obispo County. So like we all mentioned, we're interpreters for California State Parks, which means that we help educate the public about the awesome wonders of our parks. And we hope to inspire people to protect and care for these places as well. Interpreters are just a part of the California State Park team. We also have lots of other roles like environmental scientists, historians, archaeologists, and a plethora more. And so we are going to give an overview of the state parks in our area. We may not be able to take deep dives into those specific subject areas, but that's where we default to our team of experts. So if you do have questions that we aren't able to answer, we will get you that info at the end of the presentation or afterwards. Alrighty, so let's dive in. What does it mean to be a state park district? So we've got over 280 state park units in California. So a unit could be anything. That's what's listed on your screen there: beaches, a park, an off-highway recreation area. And SLO County has 2 state park districts. So you see the area circled there on your screen. That green one is the San Luis Obispo Coast District. It's not labeled, but that's the SLO Coast District. And then the one below it is the Oceano Dunes District. And what's super cool about this area is that a lot of the places that you see listed there, we have nearly all of those sites within this area. And I'm sure if you're familiar with San Luis Obispo County, you know what an amazing, diverse area it is. So we're very lucky to be working where we are. So we also wanted to acknowledge the California Native Americans, including the Tepoutahal Salinan tribe and the Yaktichu Tichu Yaktilini Northern Chumash tribe, and other Salinan and Northern Chumash people who have been caring for this land since time immemorial and continue to do so today. So here's a map of the San Luis Obispo Coast District. You can see it stretches quite a distance here, starting in the north at Hearst and Simeon State Park, and going all the way down south to Montaña de Oro State Park, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. We have several miles of coastline, several state parks, several cultural and natural preserves, and lots of beautiful, beautiful area. So we'll just take a journey north to south here, starting with Hearst and Simeon State Park in the northernmost part of our district. We have the northernmost point is just below Ragged Point, and then it stretches all the way down to the north end of Cambria, around Moonstone Beach. So pretty much it's a coastal park. There's over 25 miles of coastline. And it also includes Hearst Castle, which you see right here, this little dot more inland. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful park, huge amount of coastline. So we're very lucky to have such a diverse stretch of land here. So we'll just be going through some of the highlights of this park. So you may recognize some of these areas here. Hearst and Simeon State Park has a campground near the southern end, which is what you see in the top left. That's our campfire center, where we host some cool educational outreach activities. And the campground has over 150 sites. It's a great place to just be able to access the beach pretty easily. And there's a primitive area at the top of the campground called the Washburn area. The photos on the rest of the photos here, that is all within walking distance of the campground as well. You may see some deer in the bottom left picture hanging out along one of the trails that we have, San Simeon Creek Trail. It's a great place to see wildlife and check out lots of different ecological habitats. And the beach area in the bottom right photo is Washburn Day Use Beach, also accessible from the campground. Great place to see shorebirds and just hang out for the day. All right, other noteworthy places in Hearst and Simeon State Park, maybe you recognize the top left photo, the San Simeon Pier. It's located at William Randolph Hearst Memorial Beach, commonly known to locals as San Simeon Cove. And it has a really rich history of shore whaling and being an area where art and other things were shipped to the coast to head up to Hearst Castle, just across the way from there. And we have lots of other amazing hiking trails and outdoor spaces within the park as well. So you may recognize Moonstone Beach Boardwalk on the bottom left there, or the Bosher Trail in the top right, just north of San Simeon Cove. And if we head across the street from San Simeon Cove, you will find Hearst Castle, or Hearst and Simeon State Historical Monument. And it's just an incredible, incredible space. It's really an art museum. It hosts hundreds and hundreds of historic art from all over the world. It was built beginning in 1919, and construction continued for almost 30 years. And now it's a beautiful state park. If you ever visit this area, you can drive right off the highway up to the visitor center and check out the free museum they have there at the visitor center, as well as other concessions. And you can learn some info about the castle itself. And then if you do choose to take a tour, you take a bus ride up to the castle, and there are several different types of tours that you can take with our amazing guides who work up at the castle. It's recommended to reserve a tour online in advance. So if you are interested in doing that, you can scan that QR code on the top or head to reservecalifornia.com to check out tour times and tour availability. But it's just a beautiful space, very picturesque, and we're so lucky to be able to have that in our district as well. Also within Hearst and Simeon State Park, as many of you probably know, we have the Piedras Blancas Northern Elephant Seal Rookery. So it's just about 4 miles north of Hearst Castle. There's a really cool boardwalk area where you can walk along the beach, but over looking up, or excuse me, down at the elephant seals in a respectful viewing distance. And you can see them all year long. The amount of seals and the type or the age and size of the seals is going to vary depending on the year or time of year, but there are seals there all year long, with our heights being in the winter time and in the spring, like April and May. So we are coming up on the fall haul out. So there's not a whole lot of elephant seals on the beach at this time, but soon we'll be seeing a handful come starting October, November. And then once we get into December and the rest of the winter months, we'll see those big bulls and pups. So it's very exciting stuff. It's also a really cool area because there is research being done on the elephant seals by the Cal Poly VIP lab, which stands for Vertebrate Integrative Physiology. And they track seals and they study the physiology, ecology, and behavior of these seals for just a better understanding of where they go and what they do. If you're interested, we can drop a link later in the chat of the most recent pup tracking that the team did to see where these pups go after they leave the beach at Hearst and Simeon State Park. And it's really fascinating stuff to be able to see in real time their mapping. And California State Parks also offers guided tours in certain areas of the elephant seal rookery where you can walk along the same beach where they're at a safe and respectful distance. And these are offered during the winter. And if you do visit the elephant seal rookery, the main viewing area at any time of year, you will often find our partner volunteers, Friends of the Elephant Seal, out there educating the public on the amazing wonders of these elephant seals. Alrighty, so traveling south in our district, if you're traveling along Highway 1, you will reach Harmony Headlands State Park, just south of the town of Cambria and Harmony. And you may be familiar with Harmony for its ice cream, and it has a really strong history of dairy farming that goes back over 150 years. So here's an overhead map of Harmony Headlands. You can see that one main trail going through the center. It's an out and back trail, and it leads from the highway out to the coast. Gorgeous, gorgeous hike. There is plenty to see along the way, and especially at the end with your amazing coast. It's about 784 acres, and there's plenty to see. There's a really rich history, cultural history here at Harmony Headlands, going from the original native peoples of the land to Swiss Italian dairy farming to Chinese seaweed harvesters. It just all, the space has been super crucial for all sorts of peoples and cultures throughout time. If you want to learn more about those groups and what they did there, I would suggest checking out a past virtual mind walk that covered the history of Harmony Headlands. You can scan that QR code on the screen there, or we can drop a link in the chat later. But it's a really in-depth overview of the different groups who spent time in Harmony Headlands, and it's very fascinating stuff. And then traveling further down south to Estero Bluff State Park. So if you're familiar with the stretch of land north of Cayucas and right as you round the corner heading north, that whole coastal area is Estero Bluff State Park. So you can see here on the map where exactly it is. There's a fantastic network of trails that just have incredible views of Estero Bay, and the whole park just it's amazing. There's plenty to see. There's a beach at the northern end called Via Creek, which you'll see here in the top left. It's a great place to tide pool, to check out cool geological features, and just spend a day at the beach. And I'm going to pass it off to Francesca, who will be taking the southern half of the district.
Okay. Let me see here, see if I'm in focus. There we go. Okay, so moving right along, you'll notice the San Luis Obispo Coast District expands a pretty large stretch of our northern coastline. But heading more down into the Morro Bay area, there are several parks in this area. Morro Strand State Park is the stretch of beach that is directly north of Morro Rock. So of course the scenic rock can be seen along this whole sandy shoreline. But this park it's the sliver of coastline that runs for about 3 miles, all the way from just north of the high school, if you're familiar with Morro Bay High School, all the way up through kind of the north end, past where the campground is in our Morro Strand campground. And then there's also a sliver of the park further up where Old Creek is, if you're familiar, up kind of where the houses are in Cayucas, and that's part of our state park, and that runs northern into the area of Cayucas State Beach, which we're not going to mention here today because while State Parks owns the land, it's actually managed by San Luis Obispo County Parks. So it's an interesting park unit there. But here are some scenic photos of Morro Strand State Beach. It's very popular for recreating. So a lot of people love to ride their horses there. It's popular for surfers also. So depending on what the sandbars are doing and the swell, it can be a nice gentle beach break for beginners with the sandy shoreline. It's also a very, very important place for an endangered species, and that is the western snowy plover. It's listed as a threatened species. It's a shorebird that makes their nest right along the sandy shoreline up in the foredunes. And we're lucky that they are nesting along this stretch here. We have a team of dedicated environmental scientists that go out and monitor them during their breeding season and their nesting season. Nesting season does correspond with our busy time of year. So it goes from March all the way through the end of September. So we do ask that you respect all the fences that you see. Just in this picture here with the sign, there's some symbolic fencing with signs letting you know why areas are roped off. So I always recommend reading all our signs, showing your kids the signs, and just familiarizing yourself if you head down a new trail. And moving along, from Morro Strand, we hop down to Morro Bay State Park. So we're going to hop to the south end of Morro Rock. Morro Bay State Park includes a pretty large area. Here's kind of our maps of it. It includes Morro Rock, which is the natural preserve. So that area is sacred for our Native American tribes in the area. So it is completely closed off. You can't climb it, you can't recreate on it, but you can recreate around it. You can surf the waves right below it. You can hike along the southern end. There's a nice walking trail that takes you right out to the jetty to check out the views right below it. It's also an important breeding ground for our peregrine falcon, which is a species of concern that we are monitoring and trying to protect its habitat. And then the further southern part of actual Morro Bay State Park, you can kind of see the shaded area here in the map. It includes our marine protected areas that are just offshore, and also the parkland where our campground is, and up in towards Black Hill, which I can put my arrow right there. That's kind of where the hiking trail is for Black Hill. The museum is right down here. And then this whole area to the south is an amazing network of trails up through the hillsides there. Let's see. So here's some photos showing the highlights of our Morro Bay Museum of Natural History. So hopefully you guys have all visited us there. If you have family in town or grandkids or kids around, it's a really fun place with interactive exhibits, hands-on displays. We're working really hard to bring in new updated exhibits. So we have traveling exhibits. Right now we're taking down our wildflower exhibit and bringing in an exhibit all about seaweed and algae, which we're really excited for in the coming weeks. We're also highlighting our virtual reality program. So that's interpreter Julian with a headset on. And what that does is it's immersing you inside a 360-degree video to experience areas of our park that you might not otherwise be able to experience, such as going for a kayak tour or getting
safely up close and personal with the elephant seals without disturbing them. So be sure to check out our events calendar. We'll drop a link in our chat at the end, and we'll email you all our events calendar link to come by the museum to check out that program if you haven't already. And yeah, it has our hours. We're open every day. Kids 17 and under are free, and 18 and up are $3. Here's some more scenic photos. Everyone loves Morro Bay photos. So lots of opportunities to recreate. You can kayak. We have an active volunteer program of our sea life stewards that go out in the summer months. They're pictured here in the top right corner with their sign back here, basically teaching people about respecting this amazing wildlife that we're so fortunate to coexist with. The famous southern sea otter is a threatened species that lives right out here in the bay. Our partners at Sea Otter Savvy were just giving us a census count, and they're the highest number they've been in the history since they've been counting. So there's about 60 of them inside Morro Bay and inside our area. So chances are you'll see one if you're patient. We have Sea Otter Awareness Week coming up, so come out and visit us for that as well. It's obviously a very, very important place for birds. So if you're interested in birding and learning more about the species that live here year-round or the migrating species, this is definitely the park to visit. And this view here down in the corner is of the Seven Sisters. You can see Morro Rock in the distance. You can see Black Hill, and I believe this one is on top of Cerro Cabrillo, which is part of that southern network of trails that we were looking at on the map earlier. You can get to it up through the Quarry Trail and up through kind of that network of trails there right before Turry Road. And so featuring one of our favorite trails is Black Hill. So I hope you all have had a chance to check out Black Hill. It's a fairly accessible trail. There's a couple different options. You can park down at the bottom below the golf course and walk all the way to the top, or you can drive up through the golf course and park closer to the top for just a short, about a half-mile hike up to the summit. It's got sweeping 360-degree views. It's a great place for sunrise, sunset, on a clear day to look north and south, checking out the estuary. And this QR code, if you scan that on your phone right now, it'll actually take you to one of the virtual tours that immerses you 360 degrees inside this experience. So if you have accessibility or mobility issues, or you want to share this trail with your family back east, or send this link to a family member, you can check out this link here. And heading a bit further south, we'll jump down to the Los Osos Oaks State Natural Reserve. It's one of our only reserves in our system up here, and it's a pretty special spot. It's a little under the radar. It's a nice little area to check out the coastal sage scrub, the dune oak scrub, and of course it's got coast live oaks. So it's named after the oak forests that are there. And this is a pretty cool area to explore underneath the trees and just really get into a forest pretty quickly from where you park. And this area is sacred again for our Native American tribes, and it's a pretty incredible spot to recreate and to explore. Here's a map of it. You can access it right there from Los Osos Valley Road. There's a small little turnout you've probably seen with a small state park kiosk, kind of just east, I guess it would be, of the town of Los Osos. And so here's some more incredible photos from inside the reserve. You can see just the amazing oak trees, nice little bridge, and a sweeping view out of the Seven Sisters to take a look at the geology. There's lace lichen, which is pretty cool. It symbolizes that we do have fresh air in the area. It's kind of symbolic of us having a healthy environment. So it's a beautiful place to check that out. It's often mistaken for Spanish moss, which is found more in the eastern and southern United States. So that's kind of a fun fact when you're looking at that. A lot of people just group it together and call it the Spanish moss, but it is the lace lichen. So yeah, make sure you check that out when you are exploring under the oaks. Okay, now we saved one of the best for last. Hopefully you all have been out to Montana de Oro State Park. It's got sweeping views of the coastline, just a really, really rugged coastline that the Central Coast is just iconic and known for. So there's great recreational opportunities. You can surf, you can hike, you can mountain bike, you can horseback ride, you can go tide pooling. This photo here is of Hazard Reef. And you can see the interesting geology along this coastline create some pretty incredible tide pools. And then, of course, there's the hillside. We've got the Valencia Peak, which is one of our tallest peaks, 1,347 feet tall, if you're up for the challenge. Here is the park map. And one thing a lot of people don't know is just how big of a backcountry Montana de Oro has. A lot of people know about the Bluff Trail and kind of driving down just along the scenic bluffs, but it does have quite an expansive backcountry. And you'll also notice the area up to the north includes the Morro Dunes Natural Preserve, which is that whole sand spit area. And that's an important area for our western snowy plovers. So make sure if you are out exploring that part of the park, you're just being respectful of the fencings and making sure you're leaving your dog at home if you're going to take on that adventure up that way. Here's some more beautiful scenic photos. We've got Coon Creek up here, beautiful spot to check out the botany of the area. We do lead an Adventures with Nature program. One of our volunteers, Sally, takes people up this trail. So make sure you check our calendar for more info on that. Many of the trails are horseback riding friendly, so it's a beautiful place to ride. And then here's a picture of Spooner's Cove, which is probably the most accessible beach, just because you can park right down on the sand. So it's a really fun place to picnic. If you do go in the water, just be very careful. It's a really rugged area with lots of rip currents and unpredictable surf. So sometimes better to just observe it. And then, of course, the poppies, so the mountains of gold, that's where this park gets its name when the wildflowers are in bloom. This park also has a very rich cultural history. If you're interested in visiting the Spooner Ranch House, it's a pretty cool visitor center to check out. Back from the 19th and 20th centuries, it talks about the history of the family that actually lived out on this land. It was used for many different purposes over the years during the 50 years that they had it. And during the 1990s and 1920s and 1930s, they actually leased part of the ocean terraces to Japanese farmers as well. So there's quite the history with that. The park came into, or this land came into parks possession in the 1950s. And since then, it's been managed by state parks and curated by state parks. If you're interested in learning more from our specialists about the history of this, we recommend checking out a previous one of these virtual mind walks. You can scan this link here to hear from our historian, Amy Hart. Here's some views inside if you haven't checked it out. It is open daily, 11 to 4, so a real fun place to check out. It's free and self-guided, and there's a small gift shop in there run by Central Coast State Parks Association. Okay, so now we're going to hop on down. I'll pass it off to you, Mallory, the expert of our South Coast parks.
Okay, thanks. All right, let me get our presentation rolling here. Yeah, so now I feel really excited to, oops, that's not it. Go to Harmony Headlands, and I really want to do Sally's Adventure with Nature. Okay, here we go. Let's see here. All right, you guys, so we're going to pick it up here in Pismo, and I'm going to welcome you to the Oceano Dunes District. So this is a coastal park district that includes Pismo State Beach and Oceano Dunes SVRA. And I'll be taking you on a journey through our district, kind of from north to south, and all that there is to discover in there. So Pismo State Beach, I mean, this photo is pretty iconic with the lifeguard towers. So when you're hanging out at Pismo State Beach, let's see, there's 3 main trails you can go on. There's 2 campgrounds. There's the Monarch overwintering site and so much more. And when you're strolling out and about, you might see a couple of our different volunteer programs. So we have the mounted volunteer patrols. You'll see them out there on horseback, mostly on the shoreline or some of our more remote trail systems. And they're out there as just extra eyes and kind of to help us identify some illegal camping situations. You might also get a chance to chat with some of our volunteers who are part of the Pismo Clam outreach team. You'll see them in their blue shirts down there, and they're always excited to stop and talk to people about the Pismo clams and share some education about that. It's a pretty exciting time for the clams here at Pismo State Beach. We're seeing a major resurgence of the population, and strolling last summer, you would see a lot of undersized clams in about the 2-inch range, and now we're seeing, the most commonly the ones we see are about 3 inches. So it's very exciting to see the clams out here again. They're pretty special to this area. And just a quick tidbit about clamming, since it is kind of becoming a little bit more of a popular activity again now that people are seeing them. So the legal size to take is 4.5 inches in diameter, and there are some rules and guidelines that go along with that. So you have to have your fishing license. You also have to have a fixed measuring device with you, and your limit is 10 legal size clams per day. All right, one of those campgrounds I was talking about at Pismo State Beach is the North Beach Campground. This is the northernmost campground in our park district, and it's a pretty large one. There's just over 100 campsites. At this space, though, there are no hookups available, but it's still really popular. There's a nice bike path in front that kind of leads you into the cute little downtown Pismo, so it's a nice, safe walking area. I think that makes it a fantastic location to come camp, and you're just steps away from the beach. I mean, you can't beat it. There's even great whale watching from that little stretch of beach too. Another thing to note about North Beach Campground is that it's extremely close to the Monarch overwintering site. So the Pismo State Beach Monarch Butterfly Grove is just adjacent to the campground on the south side, right there along Highway 1. And most times of the year you might drive by and it's just a regular old ordinary grove of eucalyptus trees, but come late fall through the winter, it's totally transformed by the overwintering monarchs into this magical site. So if you come between the months of November and February, you'll get to see thousands, hopefully, of monarch butterflies clustered in the trees, flying around when the day warms up, sunning in the front eucalyptus trees. It's such a special place to be. If you've never been out to see them, I'm a local, and it took me way too long to get over to the Pismo State Beach Monarch Butterfly Grove to see them. I honestly didn't make it to the Butterfly Grove until I started working in this park district. So I feel like I really missed out on those golden years of the monarch butterflies when the population sizes were, in the hundreds of thousands. So, and I guess speaking of population counts, so at the Butterfly Grove, we actually do count the monarchs that overwinter at that site. And that's a pretty normal practice at most overwintering sites. Now, currently, like over the last, I would say 5 years or so, we have a team of our environmental scientists who go out and do the counts. But historically, it's been a group of our docents, and they were so diligent and passionate about it. And so because of them and the current team, we have a lot of data of counts over the years. And so I put some of them, kind of more recent counts right here on this screen. And you can see how it really fluctuates. And, there are reasons for that, which I'll go into in just a little bit. But also, I got to stop myself. I could talk. This could be a whole presentation on its own. I want to go to this next page. Here's a population graph for you so you can see how the changes look over time. And so you can see there in the early 90s, that's what I was talking about, with 230,000 monarch butterflies. I mean, that's just incredible. And then this last season, we had 24,128, which we were thrilled about, because as you can see in this graph, we had experienced some real lows a few years prior. And there are several different factors that can affect the monarch butterflies. And you can go to find a lot of great information about the monarchs on the xerces.org website. And so I wanted to just pull a little bit of information from there to share with you today. So it's called the Western Monarch Call to Action. And they just outline a few tips as what we can do to help the monarchs. So one is protect and manage California overwintering sites, restore breeding and migratory habitats in California, protect monarchs and their habitats from pesticides, and protect and manage those summer breeding grounds and fall migration habitat outside of California. And then just to answer any key research questions about how to best aid the Western monarch recovery. So yeah, the population is still in need of some help, specifically the Western monarchs. And so definitely go to xerces.org to learn more about that. And make sure you stop by the Pismo State Beach Butterfly Grove and we'll share more with you. So right by the Butterfly Grove is a trail. And this is a really popular trail amongst locals. I find a lot of people out there walking their dogs in the morning or just enjoying their cup of coffee while they're walking. This trail is pretty neat because it connects the Butterfly Grove to the Finn's restaurant parking lot kind of plaza area. And the trail's amazing. I mean, it's not very long. It's just under a half mile in length, but you gain just enough elevation there in the fore-dune habitat that you get a great vantage point of the ocean right out there. And it's really fun when the whales are migrating to stand up there and watch them breaching and feeding. It's really, really a nice trail. And also just a little insider tip, because it does connect to the Butterfly Grove. You know, if you visited the Grove before, you know parking can be stressful. And so you can park here at the big Finn's Restaurant Grand Avenue parking lot and take that nice relaxing trail over to the Grove. So you get your nature walk and then you get to see the butterflies. All right. Another trail at Pismo State Beach is the Grand Dunes Trail. I don't think it's that heavily trafficked these days, but it's a little bit more of a remote trail. It does go through the fore-dune habitat, and you can kind of access it from two different points. You can park in that Finn's Restaurant Grand Avenue parking lot I was just mentioning, and you'll see the trailhead just across the street there. And then the other access point would be if you park at the visitor center parking lot on Pier Avenue and then walk through the campground. Just past the campfire center, you'll see the other end of the trail. So you can access it from either side. And the neat thing is you can kind of make a loop trail out of it by incorporating the shoreline into your route. But do be aware, I will say the mosquitoes can get rather bad out there. So just be prepared for that. Okay, so Oceano Campground is the second campground at Pismo State Beach. And it's right there at 555 Pier Avenue in Oceano. And this one's unique compared to North Beach Campground because this one offers some hookup sites. So for us, hookups means water and electricity. And it's a beautiful campground. There are a lot of trees there, which are appealing to a lot of our campers. A lot of the facilities have been remodeled recently. And of course, there's the visitor center, which is a nice draw too. Okay, you guys. So within Oceano Campground, there's a great trail. So if you haven't tried this one, I highly recommend it. It's just about a mile in length. It's a pretty easy stroll, and it was just really remodeled pretty heavily a few years ago, so now it's a fully accessible trail. You can see it's stunning. Look, the beautiful boardwalk, and it goes right by the Oceano Lagoon, skirts the campground, and then you'll get to meander through native plant gardens, and you'll walk out onto the peninsula and get a whole different vantage point of the lagoon that's very interesting. And what's neat is it's like, even if you've walked it so many times, like a staff do, you know, each time you go out, you still see new things, maybe a new migratory bird, or some wildlife that you unexpectedly got to see. So sometimes you'll see the coyote, raccoons, and even a beaver. People are shocked to learn that beavers do live in the Oceano Lagoon. There are a couple different lodges, and many campers get the lucky chance to see the beavers. So that's pretty exciting. This is also a major bird watching area. So if you're into bird watching, pay attention to the apps, and you'll see a lot of migratory bird sightings pop up on there. All right, so right there in the Oceano Campground is the Oceano Dunes District Visitor Center. Hopefully soon we'll be open every day again, but currently we're open Monday through Saturday from noon to 4. And we can give customized tours for small groups there, so just reach out if that's something that interests you. If you have a little community group or something, I'll share my contact info at the end. So the visitor center is a really special spot, and the exhibits just highlight the natural and cultural resources of the district. And you might learn something new in there, like the unique group that used to live out on the beach called the Dunites. You can find out more about that in the visitor center. And we just would love for you to stop by and say hello. All right, next on the list, as we move south through the district, we're going to get into Oceano Dunes SVRA. So Oceano Dunes SVRA is one of several off-highway vehicle parks in the state park system. So, and there are a few different aspects to the SVRA that we're going to go through now. And it's a pretty, I mean, there's a pretty diverse range of recreational opportunities that you can experience out there. And it does get pretty busy during certain months of the year, such as summertime and holiday periods. But the fall and winter it slows down just enough. And I see more locals coming out doing their sunset strolls and things like that. So it's really nice. So the first part we're going to get into is the Pismo Dunes Natural Preserve. And this is open for pedestrian use only. And unfortunately, there are no dogs allowed here, even if they're on leash, just because it's a sensitive habitat. And I mean, look at this. It's almost like a moonscape. And when you see photos in magazines or in ads and stuff that are of the Nipomo Guadalupe Dunes, most of the time they're from this particular spot. And it's amazing. You just feel like you're somewhere completely different and remote. There's no real trail system through this space. You're just walking in open dune habitat. You'll find a lot of native plants in there. And again, you'll get to experience some unique wildlife sightings. Okay, so the Oceano Dunes SVRA, or State Vehicular Recreation Area, is an incredibly popular part of our park district. So it's open from 7 a.m. to 1 hour past sunset for vehicle day use. Day use passes do sell out rather quickly on summer weekends, so note that. Day use entry is still $5 per vehicle. And if you want the adventure of camping out there, it's $10 per vehicle. And let's see, what else do I want to mention? Oh, Francesca touched on western snowy plovers. So yes, we do have the plovers nesting on the southern part of this shoreline, as well as the California least terns. And that is from March through September. That's the breeding season. And so we do fence off a large portion of shoreline for the nesting zone. And yeah, the park staff have been monitoring the breeding least terns since 1991 and the western snowy plovers since 1992. And every day there's daily monitoring of nests and chicks during that time frame by park staff and our contractors. Let's see. Oso Lake. This is a real gem. This is the southernmost part of the park district, and oh man, it's an 800-acre day use area. It's set aside for hiking. Bird watching is huge out there. You can do some fishing, but it's just catch and release. It's a great place to do some nature study or journaling, and a fantastic place for a picnic to kind of make a little day trip out of it. There are a few different areas along the 1 mile trail with tables and benches and trash cans. Let's see. Oh yeah, it can get a little windy out there, so definitely dress in layers and wear your sunscreen. The wind can kind of sneak up on you out there, so morning visits are really ideal. And you can see in this picture here, there's a bridge going over the lake, and that's a great spot to just spend some time with your binoculars and see what birds you can see. Look out there on the distant dunes, and you'll probably be visited by our little raccoon friends, which you can see in the picture on the bottom. Very, very common to see the raccoons out there. Also, the white pelicans during wintertime will put on a real show for you when they're feeding. It looks like synchronized swimming. So make sure you make note of Oso Lake, and if you would like a self-guided trail brochure to take with you, stop by the visitor center on your way down and pick one up, and it will really enhance your trail experience. So this is a trail map. Like I said, it's about 1 mile out from the parking lot to the viewing deck at the end. And so it's 2 miles round trip. And there at the end, you can really get a good look. If it's clear, you can see Point Sal and Point San Luis. And during the summer months, the picture on the bottom is a California least tern. They're an endangered bird species, and you can commonly see them kind of perched on the railings of the bridge down at Oso Lake during the summer. So speaking of all this wildlife, when you're out and about in our parks, there are some really easy to follow tips that will just help you and the animals have just the best experience. So always we want to remember, keep your hands to yourself. You never want to try and touch the animals. And places where dogs are allowed, make sure you're keeping them on a leash. If you're out and about and you see that some animal just isn't behaving quite normally, seems to be sick or acting strange, make sure you report that, and don't handle it on yourself. Just make a phone call, and someone who's trained will come out and assist the animal. Make sure that you're picking up after yourself and not leaving any trash anywhere. And if you want to help us with some trash removal, make sure you wear gloves so that you're just being extra safe. And remember, don't ever feed wildlife. It's so tempting, but wildlife can actually be harmed by the food you're feeding them, and they're definitely capable of finding the food that they need on their own. And, lead by example. Be an example to younger generations and help others become responsible wildlife watchers too. And first and foremost, just give wildlife their space. Make sure you're hanging back, using your binoculars to get a good close-up view of the animals. All right, we talked a ton about camping. There are so many great camping experiences on the Central Coast at your local California state parks. And it's very competitive these days. So make sure you are making your reservations ahead of time. You can do that by going to reservecalifornia.com. Even if reservations aren't required for the park you're going to, I highly recommend making them. You can't really rely on showing up and having a site available anymore. It's just way too busy. So definitely make your reservations so that you just have peace of mind. And a little tidbit too, if you're making group reservations and they're all under your name, make sure you have the people in your party call Reserve California and put their own name on their individual reservations so that you have a smooth entry during check-in. Another cool thing, you can book your tours to Hearst Castle on Reserve California now. So go check that out. And they have a phone app too if you don't want to do it on your desktop computer. So we are always so happy to be able to host school groups in our parks. It's a huge part of what myself, Francesca, and Monica do. And there are different field trips offered at different parks, lots of different topics of things to learn. So go to centralcoastparks.org and click on the school groups link to see the listings of field trip opportunities. And if you know any teachers, make sure you pass this along to them so that they can reserve a spot. And we would just love to get as many kiddos out here as we can. Summer programs, it's a big part of what we do during the summer months. June through Labor Day weekend mostly. So we'll host junior ranger programs and campfire programs, all those family fun opportunities. And another incredible state parks program is the junior lifeguard program. So if you have or know of a child who's kind of getting more interested in the ocean, make sure you connect them with the junior lifeguard program. They'll learn lots of ocean safety skills and just learn how to interact and respect others. And they just get gain a lot of great life skills through the junior lifeguard program. Speaking of all these programs, none of that would be possible without the support of the Central Coast State Parks Association. I know Monica touched on this in the intro, so I won't go into too much detail, but definitely visit their website. If you're not familiar, their website is fantastic. They have a lot going on right now. There's an upcoming event called the Butterfly Ball that you can check out on their website. And I know some tickets are still available. That's a really incredible event. And then you can find a list of all of our guided walks, again, our field trip opportunities. You can look into membership to the Central Coast State Parks Association, and we would really appreciate that. So definitely give their website a visit. Okay, we made it to the end of our state parks journey. So let's see here.
It looks like one question came in, Mal, that maybe we want to clarify about dogs at the dunes.
Oh,
so
yes,
I know there's confusion with the preserve versus the area. So maybe if you want to clarify where they can have dogs down that way.
Yeah, so you can walk your dog anywhere on the stretch of shoreline as long as they're on a leash. Now, when you get, during the shorebird nesting season from March to September, they have that large area fenced off on the shoreline. And so there's definitely no dogs or people allowed in there. But outside of that, you're definitely free to have your dog on a leash. It's just that one area zoned as the preserve that you can't have your dog. And there's a really good district map on our Oceano Dunes website at parks.ca.gov if you want to look at the specific zoning. But dogs are allowed on the Boardwalk Trail, Grand Dunes Trail, Butterfly Grove. I mean, it's an overall a pretty dog-friendly park district.
Yeah, and the question was also asking about other dog-friendly places. I know Oso Flaco, you cannot have dogs. That's more of kind of the preserve. And then heading north, we recommend Morro Bay State Park, the Marina Boardwalk Trail. You can have your dogs. You can have them along Windy Cove. And then Black Hill is a nice short hike that we mentioned. You can also have dogs there. Parts of Estero Bluff State Park along the bluffs are also dog friendly towards the south end. If you park at the far south end of the park, as soon as you get to the windmill, that's kind of the cutoff zone, but that's a nice little mile stretch to go with your dog. But yeah, just make sure you know before you go and do your research. Make sure you're reading the signs because it is a bit tricky with the different state parks, city parks, county parks. Everyone does have their different rules, but in general, yeah, just make sure you're checking the regulations.
Is that it? Just puppy questions?
I think there were just 2 dog questions. If
Yeah.
anyone has any other questions, now's your chance. As Monica mentioned, we will also be putting a list together with some of these fun links for some of these other tours, for some of the park maps, and all of you who registered, we have your email, so we'll make sure we get that directly into your inboxes probably by early next week. Give it one more second, see if there's any other questions.
Awesome. Well, it looks like that was the last of our questions. Thank you everyone who joined. We are excited to be able to share our awesome parks with you. When you close out of this window, there will be a short little survey that pops up if you're willing to answer a couple questions just to help us improve this series. And if you're looking for upcoming Mind Walk lectures, we do alternate these monthly virtual versus in-person. So our next one will be next month in person in San Luis Obispo about oak trees, and we're very excited about that one. So check out the Central Coast State Parks Association website for more details on what's to come. And if you want to put suggestions on what presentations you want to hear in the future, there's a space to do that in the post survey as well. But thank you everyone so much for coming. Thanks Mallory for joining us. We're excited to be able to collaborate cross districts here.
Yeah.
But we wish everyone a great weekend and we'll see you next time.
Thanks everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
See you in the park.